Good evening. Thank you for attending tonight's council meeting. For the record, it's February 15th, 2024, and the time is 6:30 p.m. I'll begin the roll call, and council, when I call your name, please say here or present. Mayor Maxton.
Here.
Council members Stroop,
Here.
Roden,
Here.
Olvera,
Here.
Kerner,
Here.
Parker,
Here.
and Menchow.
Present.
With 7 members of council present, a quorum is declared.
Thank you, Christina. Would everybody please stand and please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And thank y'all. Thank y'all for attending. As a reminder, our meeting is live broadcasted, and would like to welcome all those that are joining us by live broadcast. If you do get an opportunity to speak tonight as part of the meeting, I ask that everybody please use the microphone that's up here at the podium. If you don't use that microphone, then those that are listening on the live broadcast won't be able to hear the comments. And if you do get the opportunity to speak, first time you speak, would you please introduce yourself with your name? And first, if you're a Fair Oaks Ranch resident, if not, where you're from or what agency that you're representing. All right? Citizens to be heard. I have the list. Nobody signed up to speak as part of Citizens to be heard. Is there anybody here tonight that didn't get an opportunity to sign up that would like to speak? All right, with that, we'll move on to our presentations tonight. We have 4 presentations. And first, Joanna's going to recognize a new hire to the city staff.
Thank you, Mayor. Joanna Merrill, Director of Human Resources and Communications here. So tonight I'm introducing another new hire. Jose, if you will come stand up here. So Jose Moreno is joining our team as our recent new hire in our maintenance department. He joins us as a maintenance technician tonight. And prior to working for the city of Fair Oaks Ranch, Joe worked for several years with a company called Martin Marietta Materials. And then for about the last 11 years, he has been with the city of Boerne. So again, we know how much we love to steal employees from Boerne. I never miss an opportunity to say that. So he is joining our Fair Oaks Ranch family. He has a wealth of knowledge and experience working in utilities. And again, he is in our maintenance department, so he is going to be learning some new things with us, but he's so excited for the opportunity and to join our team. His experience specifically kind of revolves around water, sewer, gas, but he also has a lot of experience in street maintenance, which, as you also know, is a lot of our upcoming projects for the year too. So we are very excited and happy to have Mr. Jose Moreno join our team as our newest rancher. So welcome me.
Hey.
All right, thank you, Jose.
Welcome to the team.
Thank you, sir.
And I have the next presentation, and could I ask Officer Cabas and Officer Pena if you'd join me up here. Today is National School Resource Officer Day. And Officer Cabas here, who's the SRO at Fair Oaks Ranch Elementary, and Officer Pena, who's the SRO at Van Robb Elementary, both got great recognitions from their schools as part of their day-to-day. But wanted to recognize them both for all that they do for the city as part of the council meeting tonight. And both officers are valuable and essential members of the education system and have earned our greatest respect for providing their school, faculty, and students a safe learning environment. More so was clearly identified with the incident that we had at Champion High School several weeks ago, and your ability to react quickly and then provide a safe environment for our students during the lockout that you had at both of your individual schools. It is only the best police officers that are chosen to serve as school resource officers, and both Officer Pena and Officer Cabas have demonstrated that they are assets to our police department, to their schools, and to the city of Fair Oaks Ranch. And I do have a proclamation that I'd like to present for both of y'all. The City of Fair Oaks Ranch, whereas the National Association of School Resource Officers is dedicated to making schools and children safer for providing the highest quality training to school-based law enforcement officers. And whereas school resource officers bridge gaps between youth and law enforcement and embrace a triad concept of school policing, serving in informal counseling, education, and law enforcement roles to support students and community they serve. And whereas by training law enforcement officers to counsel, educate, and protect school communities, the men and women of the SRO program continuously lead by example and promote a positive image of law enforcement to school children and to school communities. And whereas SRO programs across the globe are founded as a collaborative effort by police agencies, law enforcement officers, educators, students, parents, and communities to create a safe learning environment, provide valuable resources to school staff members, foster positive relationships with students, and develop strategies to resolve problems that affect youth with the goal of protecting our children so that they can reach their fullest potential. And whereas school resource officers are valuable and essential members of the education community and deserve unwavering respect and support from the public in the pursuit of keeping schools and students safe. Now and therefore, I, Gregory C. Maxton, Mayor of the City of Fair Oaks Ranch, do recognize this day, February 15, 2024, as School Resource Officer Appreciation Day, and further extend to our school resource officers, Iris Cabas and Amanda Pena, and to all school resource officers for their vital service that they perform and their exemplary dedication to communities that they represent. Thank you all for being here tonight. And I know it wasn't much. Hold on a second. Don't be running away. We have the and then can we get a picture?
Sure.
Thank y'all both.
All right, so I think I am up again next. So next on our item for this evening, presentation-wise, is the announcement of our Employee of the Quarter. So if I could have Miss Amanda Pena join me back up here tonight. I'm not sure how we got lucky enough to get her recognized twice in one night, but it worked out great. So Amanda has been with the City of Fair Oaks Ranch Police Department for several years now, I believe since 2019. In the fall of 2023, she was appointed to be the school resource officer, which she was just proclamated for currently at the Van Robb Elementary School. Officer Pena is the recipient for the Employee of the Quarter 1, which is from the months of October 2023 to December 2023. And the Employee of the Quarter program recognizes employees who demonstrate extraordinary performance, innovation, and problem solving. Officer Pena was recognized for 2 separate events during this particular Employee of the Quarter nomination process. The first event is the annual Police Department Toy Drive that she volunteered to coordinate and manage the production of this toy drive. Her coordination and expansion of the program helped generate most of the toys collected from the start of the program. And under her guidance, the department was able to deliver toys to 3 different charities, as well as identifying 12 different individual families that were in need of toys this year. The second event was her response to an electric transformer exploding in the school bus parking lot at Van Robb Elementary during the student drop-off. The department, the police department, and interestingly enough, the communications department were contacted by several parents who were present when that loud noise kind of went off, and they wanted to express their sincerest appreciation for how Officer Pena swiftly responded to the noise, and it reassured the parents, and they stated that it gave them kind of a sense and ease of knowledge that their SRO, Officer Pena, who is at the school with their children every day. So we do just want to once again recognize, and we have a award plaque with the Employee of the Quarter recognition on it. And if you will all just join me in her amazing accomplishment as Employee of the Quarter for quarter one of the new fiscal year.
Hey.
Thank you.
How many times you get your picture taken today?
A lot.
A lot.
Yes, I'm not used to that.
The last item that we have up tonight is recognizing our finance department for their accomplishment of the Government Finance Officers Association Award for Outstanding Achievement in Popular Annual Finance Reporting. Senator, please join me. It's your award. This is our finance department's second award for their efforts in developing a popular report, and the second time that they have achieved the Triple Crown in reporting with the Government Finance Officers Association, which includes they have to get the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting, they have to get the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award, and then this Popular Annual Finance Report, which is what we're recognizing tonight. The Popular Report was established to encourage state and local governments to extract information from their annual comprehensive financial report to produce an additional high-quality report that is specifically designed to be easily understood by the general public without a background in public finance. And I went through the report that they have produced this year and the one that they're being awarded for, and my belief is it easily meets those requirements. One of the other requirements for submission is that the submitting agency must have been approved for the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting first before you can submit for the Popular Report. Once the Popular Report is completed, so they'll put the packet together, submit the request for the Popular Report, and they submit it to GFOA. The report is then forwarded out to 3 independent judges somewhere across the United States. These judges evaluate the report based on 5 categories, and it's reader appeal, understandability, distribution methods, creativity, and overall quality and usefulness. From these 3 judges, 2 of those judges, all the judges forward the reports back, 2 of them have to rate that, determine that the report was to be good or excellent in all the categories that were evaluated for the award to be presented. So it's a pretty big deal that they go through to get this approved. Tonight's award is being presented based on the fiscal year 2022 budget. But to give you some idea of how prestigious this award is, what it contributes for us is the Triple Crown. And in the year 2021, the 2022 stats haven't been put together yet, but in 2021, there were 317 Triple Crown awardees across the United States and Canada out of 22,500 agencies that are part of GFOA. So I think that just says a lot about our finance department and the efforts that they put into it. So I'd like to congratulate Summer, and she was abandoned tonight by Julie, Andrea, and Clayton for their significant accomplishments, and thank you every day for all that you do for the city of Fair Oaks Ranch. Thank you, Summer. And that completes all the presentations that we had on the schedule tonight. And with that, we'll move on to the consent agenda. And we have 2 items on the consent agenda tonight. First is the approval of the February 1st, 2024 regular city council meeting minutes. And the second is approval of a second reading of an ordinance calling the special election reauthorizing the levying of a local sales and use tax for the maintenance and repair of municipal streets, which election to be held on May 4th, 2024. Is there any council member that would like to remove either of these items from consent to consideration? Then with that, could I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
From Chesley in a second. Who was first? I'll give it to Keith. With a motion on the table to approve the consent agenda, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The consent agenda is approved.
Excuse
Thank
me,
you.
Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
Who seconded?
Keith Roden.
Okay, great, thank you.
And we'll move on to, we have 3 workshop items tonight on the agenda, and we'll move on to them. The first is covering, did I miss something? Cover an update on the Civic Center.
I'll chime in here, Mr. Mayor. Our Civic Center architect got detained by just a few minutes, so if it's okay with you, I'd like to start with number 11, and the street maintenance plan, and loop back to the Civic Center, just so we can keep the meeting going.
Yeah, no problems. All right, so we'll move on to the street maintenance plan.
Thank you.
Julio was ready.
Evening, Council. Julio Colunga, Assistant Public Works Director. So I'll be presenting the annual street maintenance plan.
And for everybody, there is a presentation associated with this, will be on the screen, but it starts on page 41 of the packet.
Just to give you some quick background, well, let me grab the clicker. No. Do the presentation first. Okay. Good one.
Just missed it.
Just missed. That's fine. Okay. Remember the first slide? So, quick agenda, background on the projects, project planning. We'll do a demonstration on Cartograph, which is now OpenGov. So in the past, you might have heard us refer to it as Cartograph, or if you hear me refer to it as Cartograph, this is what I mean. The annual street maintenance plan, we'll go over that, and then the raised pavement marker plan, and then final, any questions y'all have, I'll be happy to answer. So just some quick background. If you want to go to the next one, Christina. Okay. So the City of Fair Oaks Ranch includes 60.95 miles, so close to 61 miles of roadway infrastructure. 78% of the roadway network is over 30 years old. 54% of the roadway is over 40 years old. The goal of the pavement preservation program is to strategically and effectively budget roadway expenses based on pavement conditions. So just in a nutshell, the way that the program works is, in the past, we used to go ahead and kind of do the same treatment everywhere. We've gone ahead and gotten away from that method, and now we go ahead and do the right treatment at the right time. So what we've learned over the past couple of years is it's not a one type of treatment fits everybody. It's, some roads are newer than others, and there's different types of treatments you can use and actually use your money a little better than, the way we were doing it before with chip seal just kind of going everywhere. So in 2020, the City Council approved the pavement condition survey. So we actually hired this company to come out with the mobile asset collection vehicle, and it has a bunch of cameras and everything on it, scanned all the roads. That data has then been used to generate an annual street maintenance plan each year. And so we took that information and we plugged it into Cartograph at the time, and kind of got the project started with the software. So the next pavement condition survey will occur in 2025. Right now it's every 5 years, and we'll update information based off of that, and we'll see how the program's been going. So you're going to see PCI versus OCI. So PCI is the pavement condition index, scores the roadway from 0 to 100 based on distress, cracks, and raveling potholes, and just any visible defects you might see on the road. OCI is the overall condition index. It's a combination of PCI and roughness indicator rating. So that's kind of the right quality, the bumps and things like that you're going to feel. So PCI, these are just kind of give you some insight on kind of a visual of what you'll see. If the road looks like an 86 to 100, it's in good condition. If it goes down to 71 to 85, satisfactory. Pavement condition, where it's fair, you'll see alligatoring, cracking going on. And then you have a poor, where it's kind of starting to fail, and you see a lot more alligatoring and spider cracking in that. Then you have very poor, which is just alligatoring popping out, potholes, and then it gets down to failed, where It just kind of looks like a dirt road now. So you can go ahead and go to the next page, Christina. The pavement preservation plan, so basically it affects, the implementation is effective. Pavement preservation plan is essentially extending the overall life of the city cycle. Pavement preservation plan utilizes a combination of treatment techniques to include preventative maintenance, rehabilitation, and reconstruction. And then delaying maintenance increases the frequency and cost of major pavement rehabilitation. So you can kind of see on the chart here, if you start treating a road sooner, you're going to go to make that life a little longer. So good example was the Parkway. The Parkway, once it was done being paved, I think 3 years later, we came in, we hit it with rejuve. Reason we did that was it's a brand new road. We invested millions of dollars to redo it. When you put rejuve in it, you're basically keeping the road from oxidizing and from getting to that point where it's going to get brittle, start breaking off, and start having potholes. So the sooner you can treat it with something, the better it is. And then, like I said, it's just the right treatment at the right time. You know, we did the Parkway. We wouldn't want to go out there and do a fog seal over it 2 or 3 years after. So it kind of shows you that, you know, there's the fog seal, which is the rejuvenation, and the slurry seal, chip seal, cape seal, overlay, mill and overlay, rehab, and then full depth. So there's various treatments that we can do, and it gives you different ranges. So that's kind of how the program works. You'll see right now when we go to the program, I'll do a little demo. It kicks out information based off of that. So we can go to project planning. And so we use a web-based asset management program. It stores the pavement information, updates annual maintenance data, and the program uses algorithms to predict pavement deterioration to assist with planning. So once we plugged in that information here back in 2020, it gave us a plan, and you'll see it in the next slide. You'll see it, and I'm going to go do a demo, but you'll see the slide from 2020 shows that's what we had originally, so you can't really see the colors too much, but you see some red and brown and yellow. Well, if you look at the 2024 map, which is this year's plan that we're going to be doing, and I'll show a demo real quick on it, it's a lot greener. So we've improved our roads, and you can even look at the rankings. So I think we had roads in 2020 that were ranked from, let's say, 50 to 60. There were 7 of them. Now there's still 6 of them. We've increased, actually, we've gone up as a 60 to 70 roads. We have 20. Now 70 to 80, we have 92. Used to be most of the roads, I think 90 to 100. We had 72, we're at 156 now. So little by little, we've brought those roads up. And Jeannie's actually gonna help me with the demo real quick, and we'll show you all the program. And this way, if you have any questions. As you can tell, this is the basic information you're going to see. When we first log in, like I mentioned, 90 to 100 roads. You have 151, 274 that were 80 to 90. So we brought those roads that used to be further down in the rankings, we brought them up. And you can kind of see on the map now there's a lot more green versus yellow and different colors that were in the lower rating. So we're going to go to the 2024 plan for this year. And so it lets us run scenarios. These are all scenarios that we ran over the past couple of years. All the previous plans are in there. So we can go in there and play with different scenarios that we want to play based on budget or based on maybe what we want to accomplish. So in this case, we usually do it by budget. We'll go in and say, you know, we have $750,000 is our budget. You know, we'll enter that, and then it's going to go ahead and spit out basically a calculation and does the algorithm and spits out the map saying, here's where you need to do these roads and what kind of treatment you're going to do. And so, again, this isn't us messing with it or doing anything. It's all based on the software. Once you enter the information, it goes over the program, and it's, you know, basically the colors are different things. So you have blue for rejuvenation. I think red is fog seal, and then we have slurry seal. But once we've entered our budget, it basically kicks out a plan. There may be some tweaking here and there that we have to do because maybe it'll give us like one cul-de-sac, and it's like, well, we're not going to go do that one cul-de-sac. We'll do that next year when we do this whole road. So there's a minor tweaking that we will have to do to the plan, but for the most part, it spits out a plan, and that's what we run with every year. So there's no more guessing on, well, what type of treatment should we do here, and leaving it to any human error or anything like that. So we do that treatment now, and once that's all said and done, we'll enter it. It'll update these roads. It'll take them from whatever rating they were at. Let's say it was at, I don't know, a 70. We treat it. It's going to increase it to like an 80. Well, then next year when we look at the plan, it's going to show, hey, that road's an 80. Or after this treatment's been done, it'll show it as an 80. It even gives us the ratings down at the bottom. You can see the scenario estimate. So it says we were at an 83, goes up to 83.63. So we improved just a little bit by doing what we're doing. Gives you your total spending, which right now we're at about 671. Depends on what we go ahead and bring pricing in, but that's kind of where we're at. We have about 78,000 that we'll use for patching, crack sealing, and various other things we got to do. So we could run a quick scenario if y'all want to see something like that. I can. Okay. So, but it's pretty quick and easy. We enter the information and it spits out a plan, and then we kind of just do the minor tweaks here and there. There may be some things that we have to change based on our contractors. You know, if they come out and say, hey, there's like one good example right now, I think is Les Pfeiffer. You know, they're out there working on the road. We're supposed to be treating that road. Depending on what's going out on that road, we may change it and say, hey, you know, let's hold off on doing that treatment so we don't go and waste money on it before it gets torn up. So there's minor things that we'll edit and tweak here and there if we have to.
Hey, Julio, so every 5 years, we're going to have the truck come out, and they'll do an evaluation of all of our roads.
Yes, sir.
And so that gives us an actual scoring of what the roads are.
Yes, sir.
And then as we go through this, we've identified roads that we're going to do as part of the maintenance program. So say we're going to do fog seal to a road, and it's at a 70 this year. Does the computer program know what applying fog seal to a 70 level road and where it moves it up to?
Yes, sir. So it does. If it has it at a 70, if we go ahead and we enter, you know, we did a fog seal this year, then it'll automatically change that road to whatever the rating is for that. So if it's plus 10 points for a fog seal, it'll jump it up. If we do full depth or a mill and overlay, that's pretty much like putting down a brand new asphalt road, it'll jump it up to 90 to 100, somewhere around there. So.
And then if we don't do anything to the road for a year or two, it knows what the degradation should be.
Yes, sir. So, and it's funny you mentioned that because you can kind of see on Ammon Road back in 2020 where it's like maroon, dark red, I guess. Now it's kind of a darker maroon color and brown. So you can kind of see where the colors start to get darker or change based on what treatment you've done there. So.
Thank you.
And then, yeah, just to give you a quick update on some of the treatments, so rejuvenation, like I mentioned, so rejuvenation, and I can go through the whole reading thing for you, but rejuvenation is basically you take the oils that have been oxidized from the street, you pour them back in. Best scenario that I've ever got told is it's like putting lotion on your hands when they're dry. You know, it basically moistens them up and your streets are protected. It usually holds that rating for that PCI for the next 5 years. And good thing is with the contractors, they usually come out, they'll do a core of the sample and show you a before and after. So fog seal. So fog seal is similar to going ahead and just putting an asphalt. We put in a motion asphalt that just kind of goes down. It's spread out depending on how we want to apply it. You'll see guys use trucks. In this case, you'll see some that we have a squeegee machine, or you'll see sometimes guys will come out and kind of just fan spray it. In our spec, we usually spec for a truck or for a squeegee machine, just so it has a more uniform look. Slurry seal. So this one's a newer one that we've been using the past couple years. It puts down kind of a, 1/4-inch overlay of aggregate and asphalt emulsion mixed together. So people sometimes think they're getting a new layer of road added to their street. Comes out really well, comes out looking pretty good. We did it on the Parkway recently, so that was done I think last year. And yeah, I mean, it seems to work out pretty well. Residents like that so far. A lot more than chip seal. So chip seal, that's what we used to do around here. We still do it. It's still something we can use. It's the best bang for your buck, but basically they go out, they split the emulsion down, and then from there they go put a layer of rock down. And I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with it if you've been out here for the past couple years. So then of course mill and overlay. This is where of course you come in, you go ahead and grade down the road and reuse the asphalt or lay it on new asphalt and continue on going. But usually it's about a 2-inch depth that you'll go down and you'll patch up any areas that you have base failures in that. So I haven't really had much of that going on. And then full depth reclamation, we basically come in and rebuild the road. We'll put new pavement structure in, and it's used basically in deteriorated roads. An alternative is full depth reclamation, which includes in-place recycling for reconstruction of existing flexible base. But for the most part, this is basically, we're redoing an entire road at this point. We don't have a whole lot of roads that need that. The ones that do are basically our rat roads, as we refer to them, Rolling Acres, Ammon. But for the most part, that's kind of the treatment we'll do on there. This year's street maintenance, there's a couple prices on there for rejuvenation, and these are the prices that Cartograph uses or OpenGov uses to kind of spit out their prices. We've already got our quantities set for this year. As you can see, we have fog seal, slurry seal, rejuve. We've also accounted for the pavement markers and striping, and our budget looks to be about $747,000 out of about that $750. So we're staying right under budget and accomplishing everything we need to accomplish with it. And then the other part of this project is going to be the raised pavement markers. So we have the RPMs that will be installed in 2 phases. Phase 1 are going to be the roads that we're not touching this year because we don't want to go ahead and have to remove them, but we'll be going ahead and putting out a bid here soon, and we'll put pavement markers out there in that area. Phase 2 will be all the streets after they're done being fog sealed. So that north end of the area has a lot of fog seal work that's going to get done. Once that work is done, we'll go out there and put out those RPMs. This way we don't have to worry about removing any of them during the treatment or trying to tape them up. They're going to be spaced out about 50 feet, which is closer than the current 100 that we use. And it should be basically at night, you'll be able to see everything out there. We have a couple areas that have a bunch of RPMs now as it is, so we'll be adding more on the streets that currently don't have them. It just depends, honestly, on the traffic and the wear and tear that they take on them. It can be up to 8 years. It used to be every 8 years is when they were getting changed out. So I think some of the roads that are out there, from my understanding, like Rolling Acres Trail, I think the last time it was touched was when I first started, which was about 8 years ago. So it's probably time to go ahead and add some new ones out there. But any other questions?
Julio, of all of our maintenance program, how much of that do we do ourselves? A percentage of that
So
work?
out of that maintenance program, so that money is money that we use to go ahead and hire contractors. On our side, I'd have to look up at the hours in that, but we do crack sealing, so you'll see a lot of our guys out there right now crack sealing. We are purchasing the fog seal machine, so we probably won't do the fog seal, all the fog seal work this year. There are some streets that are set to get fog seal that we're gonna try to do in-house. It is gonna be our first year using it, so it's we're kind of picking up the small streets that we're like, hey, we can do these. It's not gonna be too much of a disturbance to the residents. But I'd have to look and see to get that information on how much of that we actually do ourselves. But that 750 is basically what we use on contractors and that we don't do in-house. So we'll do a lot of patching and repairing in-house and prep work before contractors get out here.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Mr. King. Mr. King, would you mind speaking from the microphone, please?
Did that much climbing, but anyway, I'm here at the microphone, and I understand that there's one system that's used if your street is curbed and another if it's not. Could you explain the reason why or what those are?
So you're referring to the slurry seal and chip seal. And in this case, so we'll use chip seal on curbless roads. And reason being is that chip seal is a better use on curbless roads. It allows the rock to wear off. You're gonna get a better treatment on the road versus just putting a slurry seal. You can do a slurry seal on there. We have in other roads that don't have curbs. So it's really gonna be whatever the program spits out. If the program says do a chip seal here, then we'll probably do a chip seal. If it spits out do a slurry, then we'll do a slurry. A good example is I think out in Flagstone Hill, we have a slurry that was done over chip seal. So it's really what the program kicks out. We won't do chip seal, or we've tried to avoid doing chip seal on curbed roads because we've had a lot of issues in the past where there's a lot of rock shed and then you're having to sweep it up. A lot of issues with people falling or skateboarding, or kids can't go out there and play on it. So we do avoid doing chip seal on curb roads. So if the plan does spit out a curb, hey, a curb road's supposed to get chip sealed, we'll change that. We'll look at it and say, no, we're not gonna do that. We gotta do a different type of treatment. And then once we enter the information, the program will kick something different out. So. Yes, I know. So, any other questions?
Any other council questions? Questions from anybody else here tonight? All right, thanks, Julio. With that, we'll go back to the first workshop item, which is a update on the community center.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Grant Watanabe, the Public Works Director for the city. And with me here is Rocky Lopez from Lopez Salas Architects. And yes, we're providing an update on where we're at in the design process for the Civic Center. There's a couple parts of this presentation. The first is going to cover the schematic design. If you recall, back in November at the last workshop we had, council made some recommendations on how to improve our schematic design. One was to enlarge the conference room that's adjacent to the dais so that we can accommodate our executive session needs. There was also a request to relocate the janitor's closet into one of the existing other storage rooms, and also relocate the IT down to the storage room down by the main entrance. So as we go through the schematic design, you'll see all of those changes made here. We're also going to share some of the plan sheets, some of the architectural plan sheets that Lopez Salas has been working on, including the detailed floor plan, the reflective ceiling plan, and the finished floor plan. And then toward the end of this presentation, we're also going to share some of the exterior renderings that they've been working on. I do understand that there's some concern about the type of roof that's being shown. We do have an alternative that we can pull up if you're interested in seeing that as well. And just be aware that we do plan to reuse a lot of these slides as part of the presentation and some of the display material at the upcoming town hall meeting on February 27th. So if there's any input or changes you want made before we share that with the public at the town hall meeting, please share that with staff as well. If there's no questions, then I'll turn it over to Mr. Lopez. All right, thank you.
Yeah, I don't mind managing. Wouldn't mind hitting just a wheel. Okay. Total power now. I appreciate you allowing us an opportunity to come back and share updates with you all. As what was said earlier, the presentation has the completed images for our previous phase schematic design, and then we have started on the second phase, which is design development, which once you got the design laid out and we start to develop that design, and that's kind of where we are right now. We have engaged our consultants, but we have also have asked them to not work too much on it because we wanted to meet with y'all first before we get them. Because once we're completed this meeting, then our schematic design phase we'll start. Whatever comments or suggestions that we get this evening, we'll incorporate into our project. But once I fully engage our consultants, then we start kind of spending money on design services. Our engineering start, doing what they do for the systems in your building, your site, your civil engineer will be working on the project. So we wanted to get past our meeting with you all first before we get those guys really moving quickly through the project. But towards the end, we also have, what you've already seen, we have a schedule of highlights date. So you kind of understand that we are really, trying to stay within a schedule, and also that all of that work is depending on getting our meeting done today and then involving our consultants in it. So let me.
Rocky, as we go through this presentation, and just what you mentioned, that you have a lot of people that you're ready to start engaging, I'm sure you're looking for specific information from us tonight.
Yes, sir. Well,
Is there?
we've met several times already with
Right.
you all, and so we have gotten some, kind of approvals to continue to move on. I know that very recent, just a couple of days ago, when Scott reached out to us and told us that there were some questions about the roof. Those things they're things that happen on projects. Sometimes you have to kind of take a step back. But we had shared from the very beginning even a cardboard model showing the massing of the building and the roof and the openings and all that. And so that was shared with you all. And then we as we continued to work through the project, we also looked at some really kind of sketchy exterior renderings of the outside of the building, and then also provided a kind of a rendition of a perspective of the outside of the building. So we have continued through, and all of it is in a building model. So what we typically use, we don't use we used to do everything lines on paper. We used to always call it lines on paper, and then it was lines on a screen, because AutoCAD was basically doing exactly what you did when you're working on paper, but you're putting it on a screen. And since probably 2006, we've been using what we call the building model. So it's a building information model. So this project is an actual model. So we build your building virtually before we give those documents to a contractor. So there's a lot of things that you get to see when you actually build it in a virtual format. So that's where we are today. And hopefully after tonight, we'll have some comments and some suggestions, but basically kind of get an approval so we can either move forward with, what you see this evening, or you may want us to take a couple of steps back and study that whole roof scenario, if that's a question. And I'll explain the reasons for that initial design with y'all. What I mentioned to y'all, or when Scott and I were talking about that, the only hesitation you'll hear from me at all when we're talking design, we are not the type of firm that has to have a certain, design a certain way. This building should be a reflection of what you all like and love. And so we're very cognizant that, whatever we produce is something that we all agree to and something that you'll be very proud of. So anytime I'm hesitant when a design is challenged is only because of where we are in the process. And I'm very careful about how I spend your money. So, and that's why I've been kind of holding our consultants back until we meet with y'all this time, because right now we're like at 15-20% design development. Usually our consultants are really kind of working alongside with us. We haven't done that yet. So the only hesitation you'll get from me if there's questions on design issues is just that we're trying to be very careful with how we spend your money. I think it's important, because a lot of folks have that deal with architects, deal with people who are, prima donnas, and it's my design and this is how. We're not like that. This is your building, and we're here to do a great building that all of us can be proud of. So anyway, I think that's important, because it's not it's something that's standard that people have always asked, especially once you start seeing images that look like actual photographs. We understand that. So
Go ahead.
I think before we get started, I do not feel comfortable giving any direction away ahead today to him, because we have an entire town hall, which we're supposed to get feedback from residents, which we haven't had yet. And so I don't feel comfortable giving anyone a go-ahead without getting the feedback from the residents, which is why we're bringing it to the town hall.
Fair point, but I think what I was looking for, to put words in Rocky's mouth, is direction for the town hall, and that's what we told about staff
Okay.
earlier today. So whatever we choose tonight is going to be I don't want to say schematic, but whatever the term is that you use for the design, the picture that will be at the town hall. But
That wasn't the impression I got from the request, that they're going to move forward and get their consultants going based off of our feedback from today. That's what I heard. Maybe I misunderstood.
And that's correct. I think that was implied in my statement. But what you've said is correct also, is that as we get past this meeting, I understand that there'll be a meeting with the community, and some things do come up in those meetings. Usually it's the very minor little things. What kind of stone is that? or why aren't you using more stone or less stone? It's usually not a total redesign. I hope it's not, because that's, that could be, we want to make sure that this building is exactly what you want, but, going backwards is a little difficult at this point, so. But yes.
I have a thought or comment too. I think it was the November 16th meeting where y'all presented, the first rendition of this. And I think I recall asking for a couple of 3 different exterior elevations, for this project. So I haven't seen that here, and maybe you're going to present that later. And if you are, that's okay. I noticed there were some changes made here to lessen that look that we talked about back on the 16th. But I think, and also to echo Laura's point, I mean, I do appreciate the fact you guys are trying to watch how we spend our money. That's important. But we also want to do the right design that fits in with the city's, feel, the Hill Country feel. So I am probably not comfortable saying that this design here is something we would want to move forward with the town hall without seeing some other design. So I'm a tad bit disappointed that it's been since November. We still don't have any other exterior elevations. I think we can talk about the interior. Looks pretty good actually from my perspective, but I was expecting the next time we had this conversation, we might have a couple of different roof lines, different exterior views that we could assess in light of our city style and so forth. So if you've got that coming and it's just not in our packet, that's fine. We'll wait.
Yeah,
on
I'd
that.
like to start by first apologizing for not understanding what your concern was, because what I took out of that question was is that the building
'68 Mustang. That was my words. Yes. Yes. Well, again, I'm not an architect. That's y'all's job. And I just know that from the city's footprint that it needs to be complementary. We've got this building here. We've got the renovated city hall. And what we don't want is have just different things laying out here, right? Just they're not working together. And so, you don't want to end up with a strange looking building and people go, wow, what happened here? And I don't think that's the case with what you put on the table here. But I do believe the council, from my perspective, and we'll see how the other council members feel, we need a couple of different exterior elevations so that we can feel like we can determine if it fits in with the city as a council. Since we're going to be spending a couple of $1 million on this thing, it's a big number, and we want to be responsible not only to spend it properly, but also to be attractive to our city and represent our city, just like you do. I mean, it's the same objective, but I think one elevation with a few changes to it doesn't satisfy me exactly. I think, and we can poll the rest of the council, but from my perspective, I would have expected at least 2 or 3 different styles, like you would when you drive through the city. There's many styles of homes. Some do not fit, and you know, it is what it is, but we do have the choice of making it fit. So that's my feedback. It's probably not what you want to hear, but I think from the council, it's important for us to get the right design, like you do, and I think you have the same intent. It just may be that whoever laid this out, you know, needs to work a little closer with us, because 3 months have passed, and if you're asking us to make some decisions to start a production schedule, I'm not comfortable, like Councilmember Kerner is, I'm not comfortable saying anything now about that now at this point.
Okay. We had, and so that's why we try to take, you know, small incremental steps to get to where we are with providing a photorealistic rendering. And so I don't know if I don't know if they've shared that sketch that, and we'll look at it today, which totally turned that roof around so it looks like it's more like a gable roof. It's still taking advantage of a much deeper overhang on the part that faces the south. So there's a lot of things that are taken into consideration, and a lot of it also is, of course, marrying that, you know, being a good neighbor, and also having a building that's vernacular, that fits the site, that feels like it wasn't just dropped out of the sky, that feels like it's kind of grew from the site, is well suited with the other buildings, both in materials. But you know, if you look at your office building and then you look at this building, they're totally 2 separate buildings. And you know, what you said about that building could have been said about this building. It's a totally different look, totally different building, but it's got materials and it's got the roofs that are related, and so it's similar, but it's not, and it shouldn't look like that office building because it's a totally different function. And so we'll work with y'all and do whatever it takes to make sure that everyone feels like, hey, this is exactly what we wanted. But it's not a matter of providing, it's just a matter of letting you know why we're here, so how we got here. So
Well, go ahead with your presentation,
Yep.
but I just wanted to get that on the table up front, because you know, that may help steer the direction as we
yes,
go
yeah.
forward.
No, I think it's fair, and that's exactly what we want to do tonight, is make sure that we get some comments on you know, what you like, what you like to see, or what you don't like. So this is just a site
just
plan,
make a-
as you can see. It's just
Can I make a quick comment? Sorry.
yes, ma'am.
We keep calling it Civic Center, and I know we had a big discussion about us calling it something different. Am I not remembering correctly? I thought we talked about like community center.
We did.
We said we'll name it later. I think we
Right, so-
I think we punted, actually.
Right. So I know
Yeah.
there was a lot of discussion about that. So if I think we need to probably, before we
I
get
don't
to the
think
town
anything
hall.
definite has ever been decided upon
Yeah.
what to call it. It has been labeled I think in late, the Civic Community Center. I use terminology just community center.
Yeah, we will gladly, you know, change
Yeah.
the wording or call it whatever.
For
from
the town hall purpose, though, I think we should maybe have at least some options, or let them know, if we're labeling everything like this, where it just says Fair Oaks Ranch Civic Center.
It's very simple to change, though. It
So,
just,
no, I know, I just don't want to put something out there to the public, and they think that that's what it's going to be, and then it's not that, so.
okay, yeah. Please, I mean, obviously, that's something that's a policy situation that you guys will decide on, but we're, as soon as there's a decision on that, we'll change everything accordingly, and from here on out, it'll be called, you know, community center, or whatever you guys deem the building to be called, so.
Well, we called it the Community Center Town Hall in all of our social media releases, so I'm
Call it
assuming
Building
we
C.
should probably stick with that.
Well, Well, we'll wait and we will make sure that we change this. This drawing shows, part of your schematic design shows the site plan with, your parking in the back, in the north and the south of the building. All of those beautiful trees are not artistic. Those are all based on the tree and topo and site survey. So really an amazing site. This is your floor plan. You can see some of the changes that were noted here from the last time. I think Grant mentioned it earlier about the conference room being enlarged. All of that was done without adding square footage to the building. We've taken the pocket for the folding partition, the movable partition, and moved it off to the side. Creates a little bit of a challenge because you're moving that partition across the front of those doors into that storage room. But I think we're able to make all of that work. It allowed that bottom right-hand corner of the conference room to be perfectly square in that room. So allowed that room to be larger. You still have an area there for a small sink and lower cabinets. You can put a small under-counter refrigerator if you'd like. But that room is also accessible from the main corridor and the office. And so it's you can access it from there. And then, of course, it's also at grade right there to the right of the dais. So during city council meetings, then you can access that room. That door will remain locked to the general public, but you can access that room from the other door. So it's a pretty nice space, which dual purposes. There's not a whole lot to say. I mean, I can go into more detail when you go into the actual construction or design development set. But you can see those changes. We've moved the janitor's closet into that storage room, the IT switched down to the bottom. So it really, the plan works really, really nicely. Everything about it works really nicely. So I'm happy with the way that plan is turning out. This is the exterior elevations.
I'm looking at the kitchen. I heard you say something, and I want to make sure I understand. So I'm looking at the kitchen diagram, and I could see the sink right there in the middle of the counter, right? And then at the end of the counter, near the top door, what is that supposed to be? Is that
That would be a refrigerator.
a full-size refrigerator?
Yeah, this is a schema, again.
No, I'm
very
just trying to understand, because you
conceptual.
said there's room for an under-the-counter fridge. I was
Oh,
just.
that's in the, I'm sorry, that's in
Okay.
your conference room.
Okay, so
There's
sorry.
just a little
I thought you were
counter.
talking about in the
Yeah,
kitchen.
yeah. No,
Okay.
I can see how that would have thrown you off.
Yeah, okay.
Under-counter refrigerator.
Exactly. Okay.
Yes, yes. No,
Perfect. Okay,
yeah.
that's why I asked. Thank you. I'm glad I asked.
Feel free to, all of you, just let me know if you see anything or have a question as I'm going through this. But this is your schematic design, exterior elevations. We initially were looking at using initially using clear anodized aluminum aluminum windows, frames, and we changed it to a bronze. There's very few changes that we made here. Everything, is pretty much the same as what you remembered. And of course, this is just a schematic. It's there somewhere. Oh, it just moves quick. Okay, so this is the design development phase that we're currently in now. And this is where, your building becomes a building information model. So this is the site plan. And I know that it's small, but I went ahead and have a closer up look for the site plan, so you can kind of see a little bit better. You can see we got parking here. We've got, and then we've got parking in the front. So we've got Your south part of the site still has parking there, and then, of course, we've been able to increase that back end with some parking. We've got about 14 spaces right now that include 3 accessible parking spaces here in the front. Just utilizing your UDC, if I take the square footage of the big event center, the dais where, you know, the spaces where people are going to occupy in the office, according to all the square footages, we'll need about 15 spaces. Right now, we're showing 14, so, but I know that right now, just like this building, when you have city council events, there's, you know, plenty of parking on site. So we'll have to see how you know, there's not a lot of opportunities for more parking because of your, you know, obviously you want to maintain all your trees. But we have added, I think you've got 7 more parking spaces than you currently have now in this area right here. So it is addition, you know, you did pick up a few more parking spaces, but in the event that you have a conference or something in that building during the day when you're utilizing your office buildings and there's people here parked, then parking will probably be a little bit of an issue. So I don't know how often that happens, but you know, you need to be aware of that. I know you have a lot of space here on this site, and so there may be some opportunities to you know, lay down some decomposed granite or something and create some parking. Yes, ma'am. Some another level of parking. It's
Sir,
really
could you kind
financially.
of repeat the question?
Oh, yes, I'm
Did you-
sorry. So the question was, would we have an opportunity to provide another level of parking? So there might be like a little ramp that takes you up into a second level of parking. Very quick answer to that is we don't have the space and we don't have the budget. So it's about 10 to 12 times more per parking space anytime you do anything above grade. And it gets even more expensive if you go below grade. So parking garages are very expensive. So
Laura, did you have a question?
Yeah, I'm trying to orient the front of the building for me, because I have pictures of where it's a south and west, and I have pictures of, later on, of what it would look like more picture-like, but I can't tell where the main entrance to the building would be, where it would say
Okay.
Fair Oaks Ranch.
So your offices are here, right? Just to kind of give you and I should probably draw a hard line here so
Well,
you
I
can
could,
kind of.
I know where it is on city
Okay.
campus. Where's the entrance to the building
It's-
where it's labeled Fair Oaks Ranch?
It's right here.
Whatever, but the parking's on the other side.
Well,
Those are
the
handicap.
parking is all right here. It's all down here. That's where most of your parking is here.
Okay.
And so, yeah, we went ahead and added additional parking spaces here. You do have you know, you have a monument sign here, and so we're trying to stay back and away from that. But right now, we're showing some additional parking spaces there.
The people will be driving onto campus towards the parking spots, not the front of the building.
Yeah, I think, you know, there's a entry here, so you can get into here.
Yeah.
And that's how I got in this evening. I usually come this way, but today I came here and I parked in this area right here. So, but this parking is accessible from this main or you know, shared road between your office building and.
Just a quick comment.
Oh, yeah, please.
Just to help answer that question, because parking is so limited on the city campus, we wanted to make sure that we didn't have a net loss. Currently, we have, I think there's like 7 existing stalls just right in front of the old PD. All that's going away and being replaced with those accessible parking stalls. So to make up for it, the recommendation here is to construct that small parking lot on the north side of the community center. just so that we don't have a net loss of parking.
Yeah, but most people, if they're gonna go to the community center, they're gonna park in the parking lot. That's accessible, but it's the back of the building, and they're not gonna walk in the front of the building.
Well, the building is really designed to have two entrances, so it actually works really nicely. This is what we call the main entrance here.
Yeah.
But when you look at the floor plan, you'll see that both of these entrances are exactly the same, and they're all connected by the same corridor. So let me just, a couple more things about the site. We have this outdoor seating area here, and all of this is all your existing trees, so we're working around all of the trees. All of this parking is based on avoiding all your trees. So this is existing, this curve here is existing. And then at this point, we pick it up here and provide these new curbs to allow for those accessible parking spaces.
I could see all that, but that wasn't my question.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, so so I'm just curious, the entrance is on the back side of the building away from the city. So the sign that says this is our civic center is actually not facing the public. It's
Well-
facing the police department, right? And the parking is on the other side. I mean, yes, there's parking here, but most people, if they're gonna drive on and try to go to that building, they're not gonna drive past the building and park. They're gonna try to park right there. So I'm just trying to figure out why
Yeah.
we put the label of the building on
Well,
the
there's gonna be a
backside.
sign here also on the back. This is my suggestion to you. Of course, you guys decide. There'll be probably at some point, you'll probably replace this monument sign, but the building will have a sign here also. And again, let's just look at the floor plan so you can kind of see. So here's the entrance that faces the campus, and here's the entrance that faces that back parking lot. But the way we've always seen this building work is that the bulk of the parking is out here, and the campus is here with the city offices here, and the main campus is here. So I've always seen this as a main entrance, but I've also knowingly that we would have an opportunity to provide some parking spaces here. I wanted to design this building so you had two entrances that coincide with each other. And you're right, and when you have 10 spaces back there, so not everybody's gonna be able to park back there. It's gonna be very limited when you have a big event. So most people are gonna park on your campus like they're parking now in this area here. So, we think that most people are gonna come in here, but we also wanted an opportunity for people to access the building from the back.
Right, and so when you keep on saying the back, to me, that's the front. Because when I drive onto city campus, it is the front.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's not the back. That's why I'm trying to,
Yeah.
like, when you drive on campus, that's the front.
The building will be designed to have two front entrances. Maybe that's a better way of saying it.
Yeah.
Because both of those entrances are identical. They look the same. The only thing that we aren't showing is that sign that we showed here, but we have the same stone that you have here. You have that same stone right here, so you can do the exact same thing on both sides. So that photorealistic rendering that you see of your building, that stone with that aluminum and glass entrance, you're going to see that on both sides. So we can do the same thing. I think that's a really valid point. And I think it's fortunate that we have an opportunity to provide two entrances that are very much the same. So this is the floor plan. I know we've talked through it a little bit on the schematic design, but you've got the big event center, the storage space here for all your chairs and tables, your dais, which we've all looked at before. We've raised this 10 inches, so you've got two 5-inch steps going up, and then obviously you have a little bit of ramp here too. So someone in a wheelchair can certainly get up here and be able to access the dais. And then if it's a council member, they're able to come down here and into this conference room, which will be at grade with everything else. So the steps start here, come across at an angle, and then come across the front of that. And that dark line there would be that movable wall that comes across the front. Your warming kitchen is here, accessible from the rear, because someone can park here and bring casseroles and things like that in easily and bring them in through this door. Later on, when we're down the road on this in this phase, we'll work with staff to lay out this kitchen area, counters, make sure that we provide whatever necessities are requested. But mostly it's going to be base cabinet and upper cabinets in this L shape that's here. And then this leg here of this U shape is just lower cabinets and a countertop, because this will remain open. And then we'll have a roll down grill that comes down and closes. So in an event, you can roll this grill up and have this open area facing the event center, so people can pick up food or come back with their whatever plates or, so that is the plan there. We talked about the IT room here. You got the office here. We'll have a little window very similar to what you have here. So when you have meetings here or council meetings, people can come in either one of these entrances and go to the office and check in and sign up, or that function can be placed anywhere, but we want an opportunity to have a pass-through window there. Toilet rooms, just standard toilet rooms here. We got a little mop sink in the janitor closet and a little storage, and then storage area here. So that's really the entire building. This covered outdoor patio facing all your trees was kind of like the major part of the design of your project. And in events, when people are gathered here, you expand the size of your building by designing it with all of this glass and doors, so people can exit and utilize the outdoors of your building. So it's an extension. Kind of blurs the line between what's inside and outside during an event, especially if the weather's nice. So you'll be able to have people out here, and then of course this area out here under the trees is just fantastic. This is one of my favorite parts of this project, is the site and how it's nestled in those trees. This is the same thing. It just has dimensions. And then this is just kind of our first blush at floor finishes, and I think you've looked at that drawing as part of your package. We're using a kind of a luxury vinyl tile here, and there's a lot of different options. So at some point we'll work with staff to come up with what they prefer, but it would be really nice to have a kind of a wood-like plank flooring there in an LVT that kind of fits the site and the other buildings. And some of these is just sealed concrete. Your office and your conference room would just have just a carpet, probably a carpet tile, so you have opportunities to replace pieces if they're worn. But these are pretty small spaces. So, but we always like to start with carpet tile, and years ago it used to be a little bit more expensive than rolled goods, but now you can carpet tile and rolled goods are almost the same price. So it's just tile. We're using tile in restrooms and kitchens for the obvious reasons. That's pretty much it. Yes, ma'am. Yes, the question is, the entrances, are they universal design that will accommodate a handicapped person? Yeah, by law, we have to make those entrances. And it's just to make sure that you don't have a change in elevation here between the outside concrete and the inside. Right at that threshold, you're only allowed to go up a half an inch. So a person in a wheelchair can come in, and that would be the same on both sides. All of this is pretty much, everything's on grade, so there really aren't any issues. Once we get into the parking lot, though, all of your accessible spaces are here, and so those have to be designed where the slope, the cross slope is not greater than a 1/4 inch. So a person in a wheelchair can step out of their vehicle and be able to maneuver out of the car without being in a, kind of a sloped situation. So all of that will be looked at and make sure that people can come across the street. The accessible routes are all accessible, and from the parking lot and into the building are accessible. So back here, we don't necessarily have to have the accessible routes to be accessible, but it's very easy to do that, so we will. And obviously, getting through that door will be will be accessible. Any other questions on the finishes? And
I have a cost question.
yes, sir.
In the materials, it says currently construction costs are still estimated at $425 per square foot. I was wondering if you could talk about what went into that estimate.
Say that again.
How did y'all, what went into deriving 425?
That's a
square
good
foot?
question, because we have been talking about that for a while, but we use a cost per square foot for this building at the very start of the project, and after schematic design, as we get into design development, we will start kind of breaking that down into the components. How much you think flooring's going to be, how much is, and so at that point we'll have a better handle on cost. But at the very start of almost every project, even multi-million-dollar projects, you start with a historical cost per square foot number, and so this being a pretty small building, the number might tend to be higher, although prices just keep going up all the time. So that's why once we get started with the deep into the design development phase, we'll utilize the services of a contractor to kind of run through these numbers with them. But right now, we're using $425 a square foot.
So it doesn't incorporate some of the materials that you've laid out in the design, like the LVT, vinyl tile,
Yes,
carpet?
yeah, it incorporates that, site costs.
The 425 does?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, that number would incorporate the new curbs and the parking, the site development costs. So that would incorporate those. We're fairly confident, but you never know. All we need is something crazy to happen somewhere in the world, and everything changes when it comes to prices. But that's the thought, that all of that would be included. As we get into more of the detail part of the project, we'll start breaking it down, and you'll have a better idea of what things cost. And at some point, we'll make decisions as to, well, we might be a little over, and so we're going to have alternates, and we'll say, let's just take this and that'll become an alternate, whatever those things are. This is a small project, so it's a little harder to find those type of things, but we'll have a better handle on costs.
And I may have missed, if this was discussed before in previous meetings, I apologize, but has it been talked about or determined what type of contract, whether it's cost plus or the construction contract?
No, we haven't yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't, that's something that you all will decide at some point, but yeah.
Well, Rocky, I think at the last meeting, we provided some guidance of what we were looking at as part of the inside of the building. I think you've incorporated most of that. I'm comfortable with the design that you've provided for the inside, and I think it's at a level that we could take this forward to the the town hall meeting and get additional comments
Okay.
on what people are looking for as part of a community center. Unless y'all have other comments that should be considered.
Yeah, I don't want to take too much of your time, but
I'd also, I think, agree with what my colleagues have said and what Keith said. When I look at this, I really like the inside of the building, but we discussed that a lot at the last meeting. I like the idea of keeping the trees and all of the outdoor seating area. I mean, all of that fits our aesthetic. But when I look at this building, it doesn't say Fair Oaks Ranch to me. I mean, obviously it says it on the building, but but looking at it aesthetically, I don't think Fair Oaks Ranch. And I also agree with Laura, you know, Dietz Elkhorn is one of our main streets and it's going to get busier even though everybody hates that fact. So that's the side that's facing out, and yet that's not the side that we've determined is the entrance. That's not the side with the glass. That's not the pretty side, if you want to call it that. We're looking at a flat back of a building with no sign or adding some words on the side. So I think the exterior was kind of a miss, personally.
Are we ready to move on? Is there, how about interior? Any other comments on
I
the
agree.
interior?
Interior, I think, is great.
Thanks, Chesley. Good comments. So we move on to the exterior now, and I believe, and I believe the comments have come up, is the design that's been showed is more of a contemporary design. I don't know how you describe it. It's a more modern,
yeah, I'm
more
trying to find
contemporary.
the-
And from my standpoint, we tended to focus on the roof line, which I don't think was the intent. I think what maybe we were asking for was, you know, given this, maybe this is more of a fancy or
Not ranchy.
fancier,
It
yeah.
doesn't-
And so
doesn't
what
seem
we're
like a
what we're
ranch.
really looking for, or as an alternative, I would like to see what a ranch-style design that would provide another look of how this building could be built from the outside.
Do we have I guess that rendering didn't make it to that present?
It's 10B, the tab right next to 10A.
Oh, okay. Okay. So this is another version that I tried to come up with when we discussed the whole roof thing, and all this does is it creates a gable roof, which is more of a, I guess it would be considered more of a ranch style. Obviously, the massing of the building has to remain the same, because if not, then we're going into changing the entire design and model of the building. So what I did is I tried to maintain this outdoor covered area. This is a little different because before we had this tall and then that roof came all the way down across. So we really didn't need this one because the roof was kind of creating that. What we did here is that we lifted the building here, because the other rendering shows is that the plate line of the building is here. One of the things that I liked about that design was that it also kept the event center tall enough but not humongous. So we had a lot less material here and a lot less cost in this big volume, because we were getting the big volume space right here. We had a big wall here, and then the roof line came across to what I consider to be a pretty, I think it was 12 feet. So it's a pretty standard plate height. And so it was a very simple just design where it's just a shed roof. So this one incorporates a gable roof, but the ridge line, instead of being dead center, is pushed back a little bit to allow a nice kind of overflow of the roof into, the glazing here and this covered area. So this is just a fairly, I think 2.5, 3 hour design and sketch to show you all a different rendition of that building, so.
Go ahead.
Not on. Are we looking at this rendering as if we're looking at it from the elementary school?
Yes.
Okay. So still.
This is the front. Or the back.
Front one.
Sorry, I keep calling it, it's my front, your back.
Right, I'm just, and I know, Greg, you want us to settle on the interior, but if the entire building is facing the wrong way, like in my opinion, the interior's gonna have to change. I mean,
Is there a way we
Like-
can just flip it around? Or is there a way that we can extend the back front, the side that faces Dietz, to not look like a back of a building? So have that roof line come over that flat part, so it, you know what I mean? If you look at the one with the 3 pictures, if you look at that bottom picture, the north elevation picture, it just looks like the back of a building. And that's the side that people are
This one
gonna
here.
see the most.
yeah, that
So
bottom right.
in that other rendering, this rendering here that we're showing, what you're saying is can we just take this roof line deeper obviously this is the wrong direction roof, but you're saying take it a little deeper to accentuate this elevation, although, we do have that dais there. So that we could also put a roof over that dais.
Still a solid back of a building.
Yeah, I
Is
just,
there a
Yeah.
way to add, like, so how you have on the front, or what you're calling the front, I would call the back, so the south, we're gonna call it the southeast elevation. So it's all glass, it's all pretty. Is there a way to do something similar to that, to the north elevation, where we don't see somewhat stone, a window, and then I think
Emergency
maybe.
exit.
I don't really know what that stuff is in the middle of the 2 bricks, but is there a way to make that more aesthetically pleasing, because that to us is the front of the building?
I think the answer to that is yes. We are looking at costs, and we're just trying to, the great part of your building and as an architect, when you design this building, you want to utilize the south and the east of your property. That is your money part. I mean, that is the best part of your property and so if you're having an event center, you want people to enjoy those 2 sections of your building. And so that is the main thrust of our design. How do we design a building that can take advantage of these 2 beautiful areas that, it's hard to find a site like this. So that back side of the building, which is the front to you, it faces the street, so it's a very important side too. And that needs to, to be developed. And unfortunately, this image doesn't really, show you a whole lot. But the idea is, and working with Grant, we had stone just here. And for the only reason that we're trying to be very careful with budget, and he suggested that we add stone to here also because of the same reasons, that it faces the street. And so we left this section here of just, we could do all stone there as
What
well.
is that? Just so I'm clear.
It's stucco.
It's stucco, okay.
Yeah, which is a, very, very vernacular material that you see in your community, so.
Yeah. I mean, even if you put, instead of stucco, wood with texture or something to bring the ranch side to it, be,
we
I
would-
think,
we would
more
love to use
aesthetically
wood.
pleasing.
Yeah, we would, I mean, it does become a little bit of a maintenance project for you. I mean, we love using wood, but we're a lot of times very careful because our clients they don't want to be maintaining, stone is, you put it up one time, you forget about it. But
So I think one of the, and I don't want to speak for everybody, so if I'm out of turn, offer up, but we were looking for additional designs for the outside. And an example or an opportunity that we could take a look at versus what you provided is more of a ranch-style design exterior that would be put onto this building. an example. And so what you've provided in the pencil drawing, I think, gets us partway there. I don't know. And I don't know how that we fit all this to the current floor plan that we have. So if we're good with the floor plan, can we do a ranch-style design that fits the current floor plan that we have? I don't know that answer, and I'm not asking that we answer it tonight. And then the second piece that I think is probably a pretty valid point that was brought up is it's really how do we make the north side of the building look like the front side of the building?
Yeah.
And so we may still have the hallways and the doorways exactly where they're at, but can it be orchestrated, constructed in a way that it looks more like the front side than, and I know we have the diocese in there, so that cuts out a lot of the windows as part of it. And I'm not asking for a solution tonight,
No,
I'm just
I
saying these
had a
are,
quick question, but I'll let you finish.
Is a more symmetrical roof off the table? You know, instead of something that's,
well, see, we got hung up on the roof, and that's what we were providing. To me, when you say a ranch-style design, that is a symmetrical roof.
okay, I agree.
That's the way I look at it, but
Okay.
because
I-
we talked about the roof at the last one, and so there were made some minor modifications to the roof that we had on the current design, which I don't think met the intent of what we were looking for.
And I don't want to get hung up on the fact that we drew the dais on this side. Like, why couldn't we have the windows on the other side of the building?
Well, you can have,
Yeah.
I was gonna ask
Yeah.
if you guys are comfortable with having windows in the dais. I mean, they could be
So,
closed.
I mean, no, I'm saying is why wouldn't we take what you think is the front and make it what I think is the front? And make it windows go out and overlook outside the front of the campus? Is there some reason why we can't do that? Because that's what, I'll be frank, the original design of the Civic Center was when we talked about whether we even wanted to do this project. I have original drawings, and it had beautiful windows out facing into Dietz Elkhorn.
Where was the dais?
Well, we hadn't done the inside. It was more of an exterior rendering. It was an exterior rendering of what it would look like and how we would use the property. We hadn't gotten to inside
Yeah, I
yet.
mean, it's simple, it is simple to, if I knew that that's the kind of direction that you guys really saw the building being more up to the street as the front, which to me, they're both similar. The only difference in the two sides is that we do have the dais that faces that front of the property. And again, all of these, not all, but a lot of these decisions are based on budgets, is that, you know, we can create something that's a little bit more pronounced in that part where the dais is, maybe make it taller, put a cool roof over it and some windows. I mean, all of that is still possible, but then we're just adding.
Hey, sir, if you
more
took
frills.
this diagram and you put it up to a mirror, could you flop all that in the direction that it was in?
You can flip the whole thing over, but you'd be doing a disservice to yourself, because now you're putting all of those windows facing the street with nothing there, two or three little trees. But it's your building. We certainly will do whatever you guys ask us to, but I would.
Yeah, and Mayor, if I could add on to that.
recommend it.
If you think about all of our existing buildings, like City Hall and PD, the main entrances to those buildings all face toward the center of the city campus. So the intent here is to kind of mirror that. All the parking is also within the center of the city campus, so to flip it and have the main entrance to the community center on the Dietz side, if people parking in the middle of the city campus, they would have to walk around the building to get to the main entrance.
Sir?
Go ahead, Scott.
I understand wanting to incorporate the canopy on this side, you know. But I also understand the need to not have the Dietz side of the building look like the back of Wendy's, okay? And I think that's where everybody's kind of going. I'm not making light of it. I think that there's some just absolutely beautiful ideas in what I've seen. I think that I would like to see the next comeback with some ideas on how to basically use some materials to go ahead and just make that side of the building as aesthetically pleasing, so that we can still incorporate both sides of the building, and that it doesn't look like you're walking into the back of the building. I mean, that's understandable. It is going to be a showcase. When you drive down, from our perspective, when you drive down Dietz Elkhorn, which is only going to get busier, we don't want to look like it's just a big flat wall that's there. And I think that should be a takeaway from this meeting, to go ahead and just kind of, I don't know that you're the architect, you tell me whether or not we would actually need to flip the building or the interior, but I think that we can reach some agreement based upon aesthetics, and because that's really what we're talking about. Let's pretty up that side of the building and that side of the campus, because it is going to be one of the first things that people will see when they're entering the city campus. That's
Good point.
Maybe just to round out some of that. So I think, you talk about cost. It's premature to talk about cost because we don't know what costs are. So I think at this point in time, I think you understand that we don't particularly care for the shed design because we're not storing hay in something like this. We'd like a ranch-style rendering, one or two different designs to add to it, and then to the other comments about the entrance needs to have some kind of attractive view to Dietz, and it may be even Chartwell, however that works out. So we kind of rely on you to come back with something. I almost feel like we're trying to solution this here ourselves, and we're not designers, but what we do know is what we don't like. And I think you asked us for comments, and I think we're trying to share. This doesn't feel good for us, for this entrance to have it, the back of the building over here, and for us to have this kind of awkward shed-like roof that we're looking more from a ranch style. And again, cost, I kind of don't pay attention to that number because it's kind of a stick your thumb up in the air, which we do have to do, but once we get a design, then we get some kind of at least high-level estimate of those costs, we'll have a better feel for that. So.
Okay.
I just feel like if you guys could do that and bring something back to the council from base what you heard tonight, it would be really helpful for us to keep this thing moving along. I mean, that's just my perspective.
So, and thank you. I appreciate that, and I think that it's certainly something that's doable. But I just want to make sure that I understand. So when I leave here, there's some clarity, because I keep hearing ranch style and based on my perspective and what I've shown you, it certainly is ranch style, but it's not ranch style to you. So I want to make sure that the next time you see a drawing from us, that it fits your thought of what a ranch style roof, or because you've already got the materials. The volumes and the massing and materials are very ranch style. I think we could all agree on that, and we're hung up on the roof, so a kind of a ranch style building, just a straight gable roof is what I'm thinking. Maybe I mean that's a gable roof, but we've got one side of the building that has a long extension, so it's more of a salt box look than a straight gable. I just want to make sure that I understood, so I can come back with something that is acceptable.
Well,
I'd like to follow up if I could, just to
Yeah.
make sure I understand your comment, Councilman Roden. So you mentioned this to you is categorized as a shed style. Is that what you're saying? This rendering here?
That's because that's how they characterized it, as a shed.
I'm sorry?
That's how it was characterized by the architect, as a shed style,
Okay.
in our November 16th meeting.
Oh, yes, the other roof.
That's what I'm asking. Are you talking about this rendering here, or the one that was presented?
This
as
is
the
less
primary?
of that, of course. So here's what I'm trying to say is that again, I feel like you're asking us to solution this. We're asking you for designs, different designs,
Yes.
right? You guys come back
Yeah.
with some designs for us to assess. So we can't tell you, oh, put a gable here, put a gable there. That's not our skill set. What we can tell you is what doesn't feel good from our
Okay.
perspective. So this is a design, and so this would be number one. Maybe 2 and 3 would have a whole different shape of a
Okay.
with, as Councilmember Parker said, the, canopy around the edge. And so that's what I was trying to clarify.
Yeah.
Y'all give us designs, not us give you designs.
Right, and we're just trying to get closer to, so if we do come back,
Closer.
we have something closer to what you're looking for. So for my benefit, and again, this isn't the final, obviously, this is a sketch. I guess my first question is, are we closer? Notwithstanding the front versus back.
Right.
If we can flip it, I'm not the architect either, but I would have some concerns about parking in the patio if we just turned it around, but we can.
Yeah, there's not enough room to do
So
the
that,
kind of
that's just
outdoor
looking
component.
at it, that's my concern, but we can talk about that. But just as a basic style, does this get us closer to what
I think
you
it's
would
better.
consider
And I think
a
really when you look
ranch?
at the buildings that we have here on our campus, especially City Hall, if you look at it, it has that front porch concept to it. And even the police building is somewhat of that design, although it's a little bit bigger building. But it does have the wraparound porch that goes with it. And so can I define what ranch style design is? Not specifically, but I know that, and I believe the question was asked, was the previous drawing, was that the shed design? And I think that the answer to that is yes.
That's
Yeah, I was
correct.
clarifying if it was that one or this one. So
Right,
Okay.
so the
That's an
previous
answer.
one, not
Yeah.
this one, the previous one is the shed design.
Yeah, I think, based on your comments and what I've been hearing is that, yeah, this is looked at, this is kind of technically called a salt box because it actually is a gable with the ridge pushed closer to one side than the other. But this side of the building, when you look at the drawings from especially from this side, it does, look like you would see any shed, like a shed. So I certainly understand what you're saying. I totally, get that. It's just, we will,
I mean, if it would help, we can, we can come up with some examples of what ranch style design looks like, but I really think that if we provide that guidance to you, does that enough?
no, I
to-
think
to
we're.
come back
we're-
with
We'll
some-
just come back with some, maybe not hand-drawn renderings, but maybe some sort of little model renderings that is more massing to get to that point first.
Okay,
And then, we can embellish, once we have a decision that, yeah, that looks good to us, the rest of it is just putting materials on it, using the limestone, whatever other materials. At one point, we thought about maybe even using metal panels, corrugated metal panels or something on the side, and that was not something that we were directed not to. But, certainly the limestone, the stucco, and, nice big windows. So I think that the most important part of not to create something that you guys like ranch style, but to me, the most important part to salvage the main part of the design, which is utilizing the east and the south of your campus,
Okay.
is coming up with a elevation on the side that faces the street. That is the big concern, with something that still maintains the dais there, because I've got no place to put the dais, and without kind of blocking the south and the east, but certainly come up with an exterior look that incorporates that dais. That's a kind of a separate element in itself. And
I was looking at the aerial picture, and on the other buildings, when you look at the building we're in here, City Hall, and even the HOA building, most of the parking area around those buildings is in the front. of the front of those buildings, or the front or side entrance, but, so where you come into this building, this part of this building is a front entrance for the court. The police station has their front entrance, and there's parking all around the front. So I think that's why maybe we are having a hard time with this, because there is going to be this parking area, which is going to accentuate this, what we would consider to be an entrance area. And so if I liked what Scott said, if we can just maybe pretty that up and make it look more like this is an entrance, or the entrance, and just have a dual main entrance, one on each side.
Yeah, we're challenged trying to give you all the parking that you need, and, but you know, that side of the building, since there's very few trees, we could, you know, maybe show a little less parking and more trees. You know, there's,
I just wanted to point that out, that all the other buildings, the parking was at the front of the building.
yeah, and,
So-
and the, you know, on this site plan, if the building faces into the campus, which is, excuse me, what Grant said earlier, that all of these buildings are facing inward into the main campus. And so when you look at it that way, we're only showing the spaces directly in front of our site. But if you just, if that site plan was expanded out a little bit, you'd see that right across those spaces are more spaces on the other side. So, but, you know, we didn't account for those because that's outside that little area that we considered our site.
Sure, I understand where the parking is. I'm just saying that when we add a parking lot on that side of the building, that essentially is creating a front part of the building, because all of the other buildings, the front part of the building has parking.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That's a good
I
point.
think the big difference between this building and all the other campuses buildings is this is a community center. And we're expecting people to come in and be accessible as a community. They don't want to have to go through the center of city business to get to the community center. Some people are not going to want to drive past like the police department, all this stuff, because they want to go in, have their civic meeting, and then leave, because it's supposed to be kind of in and out, easy access. I mean, that's the way, it seems different to me than another city building, because we're not going to be manning it all the time. We're only going to be using it for city council from time to time, you know. And most of the other time, it's going to be available for the community to use, and coming in and out without driving through the middle of city campus, to me, seems more of a convenience for the community rather than anything else.
Okay. We will take all those comments and into consideration, and then put some model views together to kind of show you some different ideas.
So our next meeting on this is the town hall meeting, which is on the 27th. Is it possible we could get something back out to council just so that we're aware of what's going to be presented at the town hall meeting prior to the town hall meeting? Next week?
We can get, I think well, I'm speaking for Rocky, but I think we can get some renderings, yes. Obviously, we can't
At least we
vote
could get.
on it, but I think we can get something that's
It's gonna be
closer
like
to what you
massing
call
models, you
closer
know,
to I guess I'll call option B, in a more of the photographic look that we can take to comments. And again, at that point we're taking comments. So currently we've been discussing how that town hall looks, what we're going to show, what the presentation will look like, et cetera. And a part of that is, you know, what will be the 4 or 5 questions we're going to ask residents to comment on, so they'll have that opportunity. And really we're looking more at the, I think what we're talking about here, the aesthetics and the function of the building. How does, you know, as a resident, how does this grab you? What you know, how will this impact the community? How could this be how could this be used? And of course, any suggestions you have.
I just think we've made a little progress here at the meeting tonight. I'd hate to go into the town hall meeting and have this same discussion with the information that we currently have. Can we take what we've discussed tonight, at least progress it a little bit, so that we have some concepts or something else that we're, excuse me, proposing as alternatives for people to review?
I think so.
Okay.
You're gonna have to.
Anything else or
Anybody else?
questions?
Anybody else here tonight? Have other questions? Thanks, Rocky.
Okay,
Pretty
thank you.
lengthy discussion, but thanks for your
Well,
patience.
it's very important and needed, so I appreciate y'all's input and time, and we'll make sure that you guys continue to see some imagery that you like so we can move forward. Thank you all.
The next workshop item that we have on the agenda tonight is to talk about a town hall meeting related to the bond election. And right now, this would be related to the bond election and then the Ford reconstruction road projects that we've tied to the bond. We have reserved April 9th as the Spring Creek United Methodist Church as the date to do the town hall meeting. We haven't discussed it as part of council, so I wanted to bring it up. We do have time that we could adjust it and still get the date out if it's a problem for anybody.
Time, 6:30 or?
6:30, Spring Creek United Methodist Church. So April 9th is a good date. It'll be the date after the eclipse.
Oh, yeah.
And the concept of, we've kind of taken the formalities out of the town hall meeting to make it more approachable. And so my belief is that we just have a quick presentation that would talk about, the bond impact or the bond itself and the road construction projects. And then from there, we would go to the breakout tables. And we would have a breakout table for each road reconstruction project and then a table for specifics related to the bond. Initial concept, unless you have something else that y'all would like to see. Does that sound, any other recommendations, Scott, or?
It does, and I was going to tag on that at the, Carol, help me out, is it the March 7th meeting? We're going to be talking about the road concepts with you all, as discussed at our last meeting. I think it's the 7th. It's definitely in March.
Yes.
So that will be, as a preview like tonight's discussion, what we would present at that April town hall.
Yep. Perfect.
When we come with those, can we also have the baseline cost, as I've asked many times, to compare? Thank you.
We picked April 9th because of early voting. We wanted to make sure we had enough time before then.
Well, it was
or-
after early voting, and then we have,
Before early voting.
Before early voting.
yeah, in between the two elections. Well, the other one's over in March.
What other
And was there
election?
something going on at the church, or?
Uh-huh.
Was there a problem with April 9th? Or?
No, I just want to make sure, like,
I think it gives us enough time because we did want to do the design concepts of what we want as part of council for the road reconstruction projects. Because I think that'll contribute to what Chesley's asking for.
I just wanted to
Yeah.
understand how close it was to early voting, because I think the closer the better, because then it'll be top of people's mind, That's why I was only asking.
Isn't it like the,
Oh, that
I think
is
it's
one
the
thing we looked at.
22nd it starts? April 22nd, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure. Right, or somewhere right around in there.
Monday, so yeah.
All right,
It's a few weeks before, but that's fine.
but it's enough to get. Okay. Any other questions on workshop items? Now we'll move on to our reports tonight. And first is from our finance director, who will present the quarterly financial report and investment report.
Yes, thank you. I'm Summer Fleming, Director of Finance. So this is the financial update and investment report through the first quarter of the fiscal year. And we'll start with the general fund. In total, general fund revenues are projected to be almost $235,000 higher than budget. The property tax levy has had adjustments from settled protests, so we're projecting property tax collections to exceed budget by $85,000. And then special fees that's shown in the other category is projected to be $150,000 higher than budget, and that's due to a large collection of tree removal fees in lieu of mitigation. Most of the franchise fees are paid quarterly, so actuals through December are low, but the quarterly fees have since been received in January and February. As we go through the second quarter, we'll likely see these projections adjusted. Looking at the historical collection of property tax, we've collected a slightly higher percentage this quarter compared to the same time last year, and we've collected about 65% of the total tax levy. And as mentioned, we're projecting a surplus to budget of almost $85,000. Sales taxes, they are collected 2 months in arrears, so we've only collected through October and November sales tax. It's trending slightly higher than budget, but it's a little too early to update the projection. So again, we'll see how collections are through the second quarter. And Building Codes Department has issued 22 new residential home permits in this first quarter, which is the same as last year. We did decrease the budget this year based on prior year revenue, but if development picks up in the spring, we may see that projection increased as well. Looking at the general fund expenditures, in total, we're projected to be a little over $312,000 less than budget. That's largely due to personnel savings. Some of the key vacancies include assistant city manager, an accountant, the building official, and 5 vacancies in public safety. Other expenditure categories have some smaller savings or overages projected so far. But with the projected increase in revenues and these expenditure savings, the general fund in total is projecting a positive variance to budget of about $547,000. In the Strategic and Capital Projects Fund, so many of these projects are continuing from the prior year. We just received the update on the Civic/Community Center, and the City Hall renovation is in the final stages, so we should see this project completed hopefully by the end of next quarter. The Rolling Acres Trail, it has no expenditures to date, but the halt system has been ordered, and due to back order of parts, installation is not scheduled till closer to July. The Tivoli Way project, it's completed design, and we've posted an invitation to bid for construction due at the end of this month. And the Post Oak Trail is expected to be complete at the end of March also. Both Dietz Elkhorn projects are in the design phase with a planned workshop for the reconstruction project coming soon. And then we did budget for 2 new drainage projects, the Chartwell Lane and Delta Dawn, and those are also in the early stages of design. The fire and EMS study is in progress. We have the survey available online to residents for another 2 weeks. And there have been no expenditures to date on the Fire Station 3 upgrades, but a PO has been issued for new door openers, and a resolution will be coming to council soon for the purchase of a generator. Also, the Fleet Fuel Station has no expenditures this quarter, but staff has been working on this project as well. We're expecting the tank to be delivered and installed around late March, early April, and we posted an RFP for the fuel delivery service with bids due at the end of this month. In the utility fund, revenues are currently projected to exceed budget by $102,000. This increase is mostly in impact fees, as we've already collected more impact fees than the same time last year. The residential water revenue is tracking slightly higher than budget through the first quarter, and if we stay in drought conditions longer, we may need to increase that projection in the next quarter. Conversely, the residential wastewater revenues this quarter are slightly lower than budget, but once the volumetric averaging starts for March consumption, we'll have a better indication of what the annual revenues are projected to be. Overall, utility operating expenses are projected to be only $10,000 less than budget. We have some personnel savings being offset with an overage in supplies, maintenance, and operations category. Again, the projections will be refined as we conclude the second quarter. Are there any questions on the financial update before the investment report? Okay.
Nope.
So the city's investments are held in the 2 government investment pools, TexPool and Texas Class. During the quarter, these investments earned almost $261,000 in interest. Property tax collections are deposited directly into TexPool, and we collected almost $4.5 million in taxes this quarter and transferred out $500,000 to Frost Bank for AP and payroll. We also transferred $1.4 million from the TexPool Prime account into Frost for some large capital purchases and project payments. You'll notice the ending balance in text pool is quite a bit higher than the prime account. That's due to timing. I've since transferred funds into the prime account to capitalize on the slightly higher interest rate. And we've also requested the property tax payments to be directly deposited into the prime account versus the regular text pool account. So currently, as what's happened the last couple quarters, the pools have slightly higher yields than U.S. securities, but we'll continue to monitor rates for future investment options. Any questions?
Anybody else, questions? Any questions from anyone here tonight? The last item that we have is a report from our Chief of Police on report on crime and safety statistics.
Right.
Good evening, Council. Just want to start with letting everybody know where you can find the report. City's website, if you go to the police page, we have a tab over to the left for statistics, and you can find every annual report back to 2016. There's also links posted, I believe, to all of our social media, and it's in the news flash in the front of the web page as well. Just give you some history about how we collect the data here for the report. The report is prepared by PD staff. Most of the data, the bulk of the data is collected from our report writing system, which is Tyler RMS, part of Tyler Technologies. The racial profiling data is collected through our ticket writing system, which is another Tyler program, but separate Brazos Technologies. And then we have several internal tracking systems done by either investigations or administrative assistants that they track some more of the Fair Oaks Ranch specific items that we put in the report. Why we can file the report? Just give you some background on that. Main reason is so that we can provide a comprehensive analysis and activity report of the police department's activities over the year, which includes community events, crime statistics, racial profiling data, traffic data. Second, and probably equally as important, is a statutory requirement for us to do so, specifically around the racial profiling data. We are required to collect the racial profiling data on every single traffic stop we conduct. The ticket writers that we have will not allow the officer to print a warning or citation without that racial profiling data entered. So that data is compiled through Brazos Technologies, and that's where we generate that report every year, which can be found also in the agenda item at the end after this annual report. And you can also find the annual racial profiling reports on the TCOL website. Easiest way to get without navigating the new website is just Google TCOL racial profiling report, and it'll take you straight to that page. And it'll give you every racial profiling report back to 2015 or 16, I believe. So. Just not many changes overall to the structure. Council did approve the corporals, so we added that to our organizational chart there. Department staff, same divisions. We have investigation, administration, animal services, our patrol division, which is our largest. We have K-9, Buddy there. I believe he had 8 or 9 more searches than he had the previous year. You making it bigger? Sorry. I think we're finding each other, Christina. There. Sorry about that. Sure. I'm going to kind of fly through some of this a little bit. SROs, I'm not sure I really need to expand on what the mayor said earlier about them. Our Junior Police Academy was our largest academy to date. We had 47 kiddos here for an entire week, and I believe we had somewhere around 12 on the wait list that weren't able to attend. 47 kids in this room for a week is packed, and I can tell you the smells get interesting at the end of the week. So, but it was a lot of fun. Kids have fun every single year. Our back to badge, so we were 2 years running first place for the law enforcement team. We did not enter a team this past year. but we did have 2 officers represent Fair Oaks PD, along with our IT manager, Brian Lejeune, which, to give him credit, he's been there for the past 3 years as well. So, National Night Out, we had 13 separate gatherings across the city. I believe they split into 2 groups, spent most of the night speaking to different neighborhoods. One thing we really ramped up this past semester, or the fall semester at schools, was the cafeteria cops. Officer Cabus, I almost said their other name. Officer Cabus was the one who really kind of spearheaded that over at Fair Oaks Elementary, and I believe we have one planned for Van Rob here in the next month or so. But the officers basically feed the kids lunch, give the lunch ladies a break there, and I think it's 3 different lunches, so they're dealing with all the grades from kindergarten all the way through 5th. Trunk or treat, the only difference there was we had to coordinate with the school because of the early voting happening. I did not have to sit the dunk tank this year, even though it wasn't nearly as cold as it was last year, so it was easy for them. But we had quite a few people, based on our rough count, was somewhere around 400. So, toy drive, I believe Mayor hit on this earlier. Officer Pena was the one that coordinated our toy drive this year. She did add several different locations for our toy boxes, HEB, Leon Springs, and Texas Roadhouse. Texas Roadhouse and Parker's and Spotted Deer also participated in a Santa event held at Parker's, where if you brought a toy, you got a free ice cream cup. And we had a very special Santa that night. But this was the largest collection of toys that we've gotten to date since we started tracking the actual numbers that we get. But same 3, well, not same 3, but 3 entities that we donated toys to. Presbyterian Children's Home was one that we do every single year. They had quite a few kids this year, so they took a larger percentage than they usually do. And then the Sam Ministries and the Strong Foundation, which is 2 local nonprofits there in San Antonio. Santa Parade, I'm sure everybody remembers that. It was 4 nights of sirens blaring across the city. Mr. and Mrs. Claus toughed it out, especially that rainy second night. So we're always appreciative when they show up for us. We were labeled as the 4th safest city this past year, up from 24 the year before. This is the data that's collected from the Uniform Crime Report that is reported to the FBI every single year. And they base some variation of percentages of the violent crime rate versus property crime rate versus population. You can see here it's showing a 2023 rating of 0.4 for the violent crime rate. That's actually data from 2021. So they're about 2 years behind. So we expect to be somewhere in the top 10 based on the data that we know coming up from 2022. This year we did have our 3rd on-site assessment for the accreditation program through the Texas Police Chiefs Association. There are about a little over 2,700 law enforcement agencies in the state of Texas, and out of that there's only just over 180 accredited agencies, and substantially less that have had 3 on-sites that have been accredited for the length that Fair Oaks Ranch Police Department has since 2010. Lieutenant Ojeda is the program manager for the accreditation program, and he worked really hard for about 2 weeks getting everything in line, so when the accreditation assessors showed up, it was nice and easy for them, and they actually ended up finishing about 9:30 in the morning on the 2nd day. So we were able to get that 4th on-site accreditation through the Chiefs Association. In-service training, I wasn't able to get the full numbers, but average training hours per officer was about 120 to 150 hours this past year. Multiply that by how many officers we had, and somewhere around 2,500 hours of training. On top of that, we do have some specialized proficiency certificates. Specifically, we had 2 officers become mental health proficiency officers through the state. That takes quite a bit of training to be able to get that done. And we also had added an additional 2 Gracie survival tactic instructors to be able to help us with the ground tactics, which help reduce injury both to suspect and officer. And we increased the training for our active attack training, also required by law now. Every officer in the state of Texas is required to have so many hours of continued training in the active attack or alert. We expanded that a little bit more and coordinating with the school district, who's doing a lot of that training for us now. We tag along with that, and it ends up being about 2 days worth of training. So, formal education didn't change at all. We still have 2 officers, excuse me, currently in their undergrad, and then we have 3 officers currently obtaining their master's. Awards. I'm sure I'll remember this, but Sergeant Willis, Mr. McKinney, Mr. Kleeman were awarded a life-saving award for pulling the man out of the burning vehicle. An update to that, I was recently contacted by a commission called the Carnegie Hero Fund. I think I got that right. They reached out to me based on the news story that was put out, and they have been nominated for the Carnegie Hero Fund Commission Award. Don't expect the results of their decision for a couple months, but that is a pretty big honor. It's a nationwide commission that basically takes anything that person risks their life in the saving of another human life. So that'd be a really big honor for all the 3 of them to get that. Letters of commendation, there's 3 total last year, 2 of them by Officer Pena, most recently for the toy drive and the event at the school. And then Detective Serold received one for her assistance in scheduling the Santa Parade on top of dealing with some pretty intensive cases at the same time. So, and years of service, only had 2, Matt Drexler and then Buddy. So, Buddy couldn't be here tonight, but I'm sure he's excited to get his 5-year pen, if that's still a thing. So, maybe a 5-year bone. Jumping into crime statistics, didn't have a lot of changes overall. We did see a reduction in some of our tier 1 or our aggravated offenses, which is a good thing. We did change some of what we're tracking here in the incidents offenses, which are, this category is actually criminal offenses committed and reported to us. Not just call for service for like assisting or welfare checks. One thing we began tracking this year is the emergency detentions, which are mental health crises. So tracking those is becoming more needed across the state. And with our mental health proficiency officers, we need to track those numbers as well and then coordinate with other entities around us to be able to report those numbers back. So we join in with Bexar County on their MedCom, basically. So if we have a mental health crisis in our city, there's multiple beds in Bexar County that are available, and we call for the next available bed. Kendall County, I'm sure you've read the article from the sheriff, they have difficulty because they don't have beds available in Kendall. So they end up traveling hours at a time sometimes to get a bed for these patients. Outside of that, we did have a slight increase in burglaries, but a decrease in thefts. But I'm going to hit y'all with some bad news. None of the burglaries were by force. Everybody left their doors unlocked and the keys in the vehicle. But we did have one less stolen vehicle than we had the year before, but a lot of the burglaries are related to the stolen vehicles. Outside of that, we were able to recover almost everything taken from vehicles and recover the vehicles themselves. The only thing we have not recovered are the firearms. So even more important for everybody to remind their neighbors to lock their doors, take your valuables out. Please take your firearms out of your vehicles. We are not recovering those because we pretty much know those are going south of the border. So, calls for service. These are general calls outside of the criminal offenses that get called into dispatch that the officer dispatched to. The majority, as you can see, are assisting either fire, EMS, or other agencies. We did have a increase in the accidents, which we'll kind of get into a little bit more, but basically the same. We generally see about anywhere between a 2% and 6% increase in call for service numbers year to year. Even going back to 2016, it's only been a 12% increase from the numbers of 2016. So all of the statistics here basically trend that same way. And if y'all have any questions, please, first, feel free to stop me. And this is just a comparison of the last 4 years. I'm sorry, I'm gonna bring that up. Last 4 years, just showing the call for service and the disparity of assisting another agency, assisting Leon Springs, and assisting EMS. And I think everybody knows that officers are dispatched and do respond to all EMS and fire calls. So, arrests up very slightly. We only arrested 5 more people than we did the year before, but as you can see that we did charge them with quite a few more offenses this year. Outside of that, at residence was about 10 less. That's a good thing. But usually we see that every single year, that the residents are a very small number of the people that we arrest every single year. Felonies up slightly, misdemeanors up slightly, trending along the same that we see every single year, year to year. One thing that we've seen change here in the past probably 3 years is the percentage of Class B misdemeanors and Class A misdemeanors. Main reason behind that is what was the policy of the district attorney's office on non-prosecution for the low-level marijuana offenses. So the officers were not physically arresting for that, they were writing the citations. So you see a little bit of disparity there because now we become a Class C versus a Class B. That has since changed with the new laws in place, but we're not going to see the change in those numbers till the end of this current year. Not much change in the alcohol and narcotics violations. The biggest things I can see are the public intoxication, which probably can be contributed to Conroy's closing. But the Roost is opening up, and we have been in contact with the new owners of them, and I think that partnership is going to be a lot more healthy than the last one. As far as narcotics go, not major change there. We did see quite a big uptick in the amount of prescription drug abuse that we've seen. And several of those cases, I believe there was multiple different types that they were in possession of. So, and just a year-to-year comparison showing the differences in how many we've had each year. Traffic statistics, getting into this one, you are going to see a little bit of a disparity in the total numbers when I get into the racial profiling. Racial profiling shows 6,321 stops, and this is showing 6,327. The difference in those 6 is the racial profiling data did not have any racial profiling data on those 6 because they were parking tickets. So, just to give you that information. Residents have a little bit smaller percentage of the overall citations compared to last year, 14% down to 12. Citations were a little bit less, but usually trending around the same. We usually hover right around that 25% citation rate. So, and getting into the racial profiling data, as you see, the majority of the people we stop are white, and the second biggest is Hispanic, somewhere around 4,800. I can't read it from here, I'm sorry. Stop are white, Hispanic 1,200, and these are just traffic stops. These aren't citations or warnings, just people stopped. And a very small percentage of Black, Alaskan Native American Indian, and the Asian Pacific Islander. The difference between females and males receiving citations, receiving warnings. As you can see, females don't get citations as often as males do, but I can tell you from the data looking into our internal database, males tend to have several more violations per stop than females do. So that's probably why we're seeing those numbers. One of the things that's required in the racial profiling is, did the officer know the race or ethnicity of the person before the stop was made? They are required to answer this question before they can issue a citation or warning. And as you see, officers only knew that 14 times out of the 6,300. So it is really difficult to kind of tell that when someone's driving past you at 30 or even 50 miles an hour. So the results of the stop, the different citations and warnings ratio between white, Hispanic, Black, Alaska, Native. You can see citation and arrest, warning and arrest. These categories are a little bit difficult to kind of capture when the officers are putting in there, because a lot of times they're completing the citation before something else happens, if they get probable cause of search or if a warrant comes back confirmed. So they have to come back in and correct that data. Overall reasons for the stop, moving traffic violations and vehicle traffic violations. The difference there is moving is running a stop sign, speeding. Vehicle traffic violations could be anything as parking, registration, insurance, driver's license violations. Violations of the law are actual penal offenses, reckless driving, littering, things like that, and pre-existing knowledge. You can see there's very few of those, and you can relate those back to the officers were waiting for someone they knew, basically. Yes, ma'am. So every time, I did not grab those numbers, but every time an officer stops a golf cart and issues a warning or citation, they are inputting that racial profiling data. So I did not pull the number of golf carts. I probably should
But
have.
it's included in those
It
numbers.
is included in those totals, yes. And I can get those numbers for golf carts and get them out to everybody if I need to. So the types of violations, this is not required in racial profiling. We break this out to track it. Speeding is always the most common that we see. Driver's license violations, registration violations, and insurance violations are usually found after you stop them for the moving violation. Don't have a lot of people running the stop sign or stoplights, stop signs, and equipment violations was pretty high this year. There's been some legislation on removing the inspection for vehicles. We've also had a lot of beat-up cars this past year, missing total equipment. And then part of that is probably Officer Magnus issuing the mud flap tickets because he doesn't like rocks in his windshield. So these searches, which is required under the racial profiling, we have to differentiate between consent, officers seeing contraband in plain view, if it was incident to arrest, if it's an inventory, which is what's conducted after arrest is made before a tow happens, or probable cause. You can see the majority of ours are probable cause or consent. But overall, we only searched 309 vehicles out of the 6,300 that were stopped. Searching conducted, everything here you'll see in racial profiling except for the canine buddy, which we throw in there, which is the percentage of the overall stops. You can see the majority is all for probable cause. Very few are inventory searches. The consent, larger part of that, incident to arrest and plain view. Out of all the searches, the 309, 87% of the time contraband was found. There were 13 searches where no contraband was found after the search was conducted. And the types of contraband found, you can see the majority of what we find are narcotics and alcohol. The other category would be anything that would fall under a criminal offense that doesn't meet the narcotics, weapons, alcohol. So, honestly, again, stolen property, things like that. I think we had one with stolen property, and that was actually a stolen vehicle that was pursued by the officers and wrecked out by the arbors there. So, getting into the miscellaneous calls, this is the data that we track internally with kind of a combination of our TIDAR program. Accidents, you can see up about 33%. A little bit higher than what our trend was showing over the past few years, and we did change the way that we report here. In the previous annual reports, you'll see 1 vehicle, 2 vehicle, 3 vehicle, and I believe truck tractor. Here we kind of combined those into 2, either single vehicle and multiple vehicle, and then we broke out the vehicle versus wildlife, which everybody knows is vehicle versus deer. And then some hit and runs, which we're seeing a little bit more of, especially with the busy parking lots around the city. We did see a pretty large increase in accidents occurring south of Cibolo Creek. So if you can picture the city, Cibolo Creek cuts right through there. So Cibolo Trails, Deer Meadows Estates, everything on the North 40 is North Creek. Everything south of that we would consider south, short of the ones that are labeled Fair Oaks Parkway and Ralph Fair Road. We did have a decrease in accidents on Ralph Fair Road, but that southern part, we had, I believe, somewhere around 20 more accidents this past year than we did the year before. A lot of those on the section of Parkway between Deets Elkhorn and I-10. You see heavier traffic in the morning, usually, and that's where we get our little fender benders or our bigger accidents. So, the alarm calls we break out by differential alarms. The majority are just residential alarms. Someone didn't hit their code fast enough or forgot to close their door all the way, so it set the alarm off after the 30 seconds or a minute. 911 hangups are ones where our dispatch and 911 callers they're forced to have to call them back and find out what's going on. Majority of those usually turn into, oh, it was an accident or a kid was playing with the phone. But every once in a while, it is something serious that we need to respond to. I'm sorry, did you raise your hand, sir? Okay, sorry. Fire alarms, medical alarms, we do get those quite often. The fire department is doing a pretty good job of getting the file of life information out to our residents. They're working on the Yellow Dot program right now. And I believe they've been instrumental in kind of increasing the amount of life pendants, or it used to be pendants, now they're watches or they're on their smartphones. So we're getting more of those, which are a good thing, especially with the living by themselves older residents. City ordinances, pretty good decrease in fireworks overall. Solicitors barely had any, honestly, but we see a pretty good uptick there of the other, and that other, I can tell you, is construction times. So construction times. So they're not allowed to start construction prior to a certain time frame, and we had quite a few calls from 2 different neighborhoods that both touch detail corn. I'll leave it at that. Deer calls, right about the same. Nothing really more there. We did see an uptick of all other calls. We did have probably around 12 dogs that were just abandoned in the city for some reason. Yeah. We don't like those people. We hunt them down. Out of the 12, I believe total, we found 7 of the owners and ended up charging them. All the dogs have been adopted, short of the one that you can see earlier in the report under Animal Services next to Garrett. That dog just got released to Bernie Animal Shelter and is up for adoption. So if y'all want a Rottweiler mix, there you go. It's a sweet dog. Golf cart permits, didn't do as many this year as we did last year. The total number of permits we have issued to date, though, is just over 1,250. So there are about 1,250 golf carts registered with the city right now. And those do not include golf carts owned by the country club. So, and it will include ROVs, UTVs that we have registered. Public information requests and pet registrations trending around the same. We did get a lot more pets registered this year than we did the year before. And Garrett, our animal services officer, is working to get that even higher this year. So,
Good job at sending emails out and whatever, contacting people to renew
Yeah.
pet registration.
and I'll give some of the credit to Yvonne, our administrative assistant, on that. She was pretty persistent in working with Garrett on that one too. So, our officer availability data, we did see about a 15% increase in time out of the city, and this is time tracked from an officer making an arrest, driving to the jail facility and coming back. We only saw a 2% increase in the number of people arrested. The reason why we're seeing that 50% increase was where the arrests were occurring. So we had more arrests the year before in Kendall County. This past year, we had more arrests in Comal County, which is a substantially longer drive. 45 minutes there, 45 minutes back, and that's with no traffic and no issues at the jail. So that's why we're seeing that 50% increase in time out of the city. The average time spent on call type, this is just showing where the officers are spending most of their time throughout the year based on averages. This one didn't really change too much. The biggest change here we'll see was the home watches. They did increase the home watches by about 10,000, which sounds like a lot, but that's every officer checking that house, how many times they're out on home watch. And I believe right now we have somewhere around 25 houses on home watch. So, and that is the end of the report, and I am available for any questions. And remind everybody, these reports are online, city website. You can see them on social media. They're there. We leave them up there for everybody to see. So,
Any questions?
Great job, Chief.
thanks, sir.
Any questions from anybody here tonight about the police report? Okay. And thank you, Chief. Yep. Moving on to requested announcements. Does any council member have any announcements they'd like to put out tonight? Nope. All right, I got a couple. 27 February is our town hall meeting. I think we talked about that briefly, the Gateway feature in the community center. It will be 6:30 p.m. at the Spring Creek United Methodist Church. We talked a little bit about the election. Election day is 5 March for the primary election date. Early voting is 20 February through 1 March. Bexar County residents will be able to vote here at City Hall. Kendall County and Comal County residents will vote at respective county locations, at the respective county locations. And the last announcement, 1 March, is the new automated sprinkler landscape watering day goes into effect. Residents, the only change that impacts residents is if you're Address ends in 0. Your day moved from Monday to Sunday. All other addresses will stay on the same days that they are on. The only other change was for commercial accounts, and this moved to Saturdays, and commercial accounts includes the HOAs. That's all I have. Scott, any other announcements we missed?
Yeah, just a reminder that, I think it was mentioned once tonight, we are in the midst of gathering community feedback on our fire and EMS services. That's been in progress. We'll have that open for basically a couple more weeks till the end of February. That will help us, that will go into the report that comes back to council, which of course will help us plan and determine how we feel those services in the future. So very important feedback that we're asking from the community. We have and will be posting it several times across all our platforms, so just encourage residents to help us out with that. Monday is President's Day, so City Hall will be closed. Thank you.
Does any council members have any topics that they would like added to a future agenda? Nope. Okay. We have no reason to go into executive session tonight, surprise. Unless y'all want to. We're not, no executive session tonight. Christina, anything else that we need to do for the meeting tonight? Anything we missed?
No, sir.
Got from your,
No, sir.
we're good? I have the time now is 9:01 and we are adjourned.